Thanks for joining. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and today we're going to talk about mosquitoes. And our guests today, Dr. William Petrie and Michael Boot from the Miami-Dade County Mosquito Control Department.
Good afternoon, Michael, and thank you for the introduction.
Thanks for being here. So we know that this is mosquito season. Now, so far it seems to be like, okay, when does it get really bad? Now, I'm going to tell folks there are mosquitoes in each of these containers.
Okay, so we have some show and tell here with live mosquitoes on air, but we'll come back to that.
Yes.
To your point, I think, Michael, the mosquito season is a little bit late this year with the rains being a little bit late. I think it's imminent. It's upon us. The peak of the mosquito season is upon us. And today happens to be the first day of what's called, they're celebrating this.
Folks, listen up. This is a good one.
Seriously.
Okay, so tell us.
National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. It's a whole week.
It's the first day of summer, too, right?
Exactly.
It's a federal holiday. There's so many things going on.
Celebrating the Juneteenth holiday, yes. So we have a number of events planned for this week, which Michael will elaborate on as to do with the Mosquito Control Awareness Week.
Is there like a celebration?
More of an observance, more of
Okay,
an awareness thing, more of a talk, an opportunity for a discussion, an opportunity for communicating, that sort of thing.
So one of the things that we recognize for most folks, mosquitoes is just, you drain and cover. We get that, or they spray themselves, not paying too much attention. But you have spent most of your life studying mosquitoes.
Yep, most of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Now I'm going to let everybody know you have your PhD in mosquito biology.
Yes.
All right. I know, Michael, it is pretty amazing. All right. I did want to share with a few weeks ago, guys came out with the cigar boxes, if you will, with pins through each of the mosquitoes and showed there must have been 50 in each box. Painstaking work to be able to show that.
Indeed, that's the taxonomic, what they call taxonomy, classification side of what we do. We have several laboratory technicians and biologists who are highly specialized in identifying the species and then in pinning them and preparing them in the way that you saw, which has to be done in a very precise way, the same way it's done in museums. So it's done in the same way in the Smithsonian or in the London Museum.
And they're only that far apart, but they're little
tiny, and you have to have a very fine hand and a very good eye to do this.
Takes a very steady hand.
All right. So that is tough. So my hat's off to the people that do that to make that available. And
Indeed.
Can people go onto your website and find out more about the mosquitoes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. If anyone that wants to learn more can always visit us at miamidade.gov/mosquito. There you'll have all sorts of information about mosquitoes, about what we do. There's tips, there's links to videos, there's all sorts of really good information on there. And we do keep it updated.
There is a great advantage of the mosquito season, which is that we know it's the grass is going to be really green, and the landscapers love this time of the year.
Indeed.
Where it used to be like every week, every 8 or 10 days, the lawn is like huge, and they must be like so happy they get to go out and charge $1 zillion to cut your yard.
So for us, Michael, the mosquito season never really goes away. In southern Florida, especially in Miami, there are mosquitoes all year round. It's subtropical after all. But when the summer comes with the rainfall, that's when we have the peak season, which is what we're talking about now.
So let's step in. If we were to go to the Everglades, let's say in February, and it's 65 degrees, 70 degrees, the critters going to still be out there?
Yes. Now, the Everglades is a different matter. That's not to do with temperature. That's to do with the flooding. Whether it's rainfall or tide, the Everglades, the mosquitoes there reproduce with tidal flooding when the seawater comes in. That's a whole different scenario altogether. So you may go to the Everglades and find very few mosquitoes. You're not getting bitten at all. You may, on the other hand, go just after a mass emergence, and you're not going to be able to stay long. Those mosquitoes either occur in very small numbers or massive numbers. It's on or off.
So, Michael, when will, if there was going to be the worst part of the mosquito season, what month might that be in?
What do you say, Bill? August, September?
Actually, here June has historically been, but more recently, probably September. probably August, September.
Oh, perfect
it-
time to
is-
go along with our hurricanes. Perfect. All right. So,
It does coincide with hurricane season. Yeah.
okay. So, folks, we have mosquitoes. All right, in these containers right here. First, let's tell people what type of mosquitoes are in here. Michael, you want to tell us and how they got in there and
Actually,
what you're going to do with these.
Sure. I'll defer to Bill.
So what I want to mention here, Michael's actually going to do this demonstration where he's going to put his arm in this cage to blood feed these female mosquitoes here.
And they're going to get the blood from
They're going to get the
From
blood
me.
from Michael's arm. But just to
devoted guy.
just to explain very, very briefly here, we have two different types of mosquitoes. I don't know if
And
this will
Howard's
help.
going to grab another camera and he's going to be walking,
so-
try to get these clothes.
So these are very, very different types. This is the southern house mosquito, and this is the yellow fever mosquito, dengue, Zika, take your pick. Doesn't have a common name, Aedes aegypti. These two mosquitoes occur prolifically in Miami-Dade, but I want to highlight the very different biology, that completely different biology. They have very, very different types of eggs. And this is important, Michael. Don't look at me like that. This is important. These lay eggs which are highly specialized and withstand drying out. So they can be laid on a substrate or a surface that can last for
and
months.
how many mosquitoes are in that cage?
Well, there's a few hundred in there.
And you're saying that they can lay their eggs on a dry surface
Yes.
and they can last for months.
months.
And then
Years.
what's
they,
going to
they wait for the rainfall to come. This species here, this type, they don't do that. They lay 100, 150 eggs at one time on the surface of the water and bang, they hatch right away.
These little guys are going to lay 150 eggs.
Easy.
If you were going to describe the size of the egg, how would you describe that compared to the tip of a needle?
Should have
Well,
brought
I'd say
some
a
along.
fraction of a grain of rice,
Yeah.
uncooked.
Yeah, they're extremely small, like
Yeah,
a full
they-
stop.
They're barely visible. You have to really know what you're looking at.
And from a biological point, how many of the 100, we'll use that figure, of eggs that get laid, how many are going to wind up
Emerging?
Yes.
The mortality at that stage is actually pretty low. So most of them are going to survive that part of the life cycle.
Is that why we call it mosquito control versus animal services, where we take care of the animals? By the way, great job. My hat's off to the county for taking care of our four-legged furry friends, dogs and cats.
Well, I think that's why some people prefer abatement. But mosquito abatement district is mad.
it's
you
kind of
know,
a-
so you
An
know
obscure word too.
All right. So are you ready to stick your arm in there?
I'm ready.
So
I was
Michael-
born ready.
Michael's going to do this. Over to
I
you,
was
Michael.
born for public service, folks. Here we go.
All right. So why don't you show people what that backside looks like before you stick your hand into it so they
Okay,
can see it?
See, it's sort of just like a common little knot here. This is a fabric that will allow us to kind of expand and put my arm, and then I could, contract it around my arm so that no mosquitoes escape. So it's just essentially just a real simple knot that I will undo. They're not free yet. See, I'm holding on to, I'm pinching here. So I'm going to have to turn so that I'm able to put my arm in. So here we go. Doc, you want to tell them why this is relatively low risk?
Well, this is low risk as far as disease is concerned, because we know the rearing arrangements for both of these cages here. These mosquitoes were reared without any disease.
Okay. So, Michael, why
Well-
don't you tell us what it's like? You got your hand up above your wrist
Right.
in there. Oh, and it looks. Go ahead. Describe what we've got going on. Oh,
Well,
look at that. Oh my goodness.
we've got
Way to go.
Mosquitoes just
Uh-oh.
landing all over my hands and
Oh
my arm.
goodness.
I don't really feel much, but just like a slight tickle at the moment. And sometimes at worst, yeah, look at that.
No, that's good now.
At worst, it'll feel like a slight little pinprick.
For now.
Yeah, for now. Then later on, I'll have like these little nice looking red welts. And if my girlfriend is watching, sorry, honey, it's not going to be very attractive. But I'm doing this for science, Michael.
So one of the
This is there are hundreds on your hand, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That is
Yeah, there's
amazing.
Very little skin available there.
So one of the contrasts was supposed to be, these are not such aggressive biters, and they may or may not feed, and they like to feed at night. These are the opposite.
These are pretty aggressive.
As you, because it's dengue, Zika, yellow fever, chikungunya. Okay.
Your hand has almost changed colors.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look at that.
Another thing, Michael, that this species does which this one doesn't.
Howard's grimacing, watching you.
He's next. Another thing that this mosquito species does, which this one doesn't, typical of this, it's also important for disease transmission. It will skip around. It won't just land, insert the needle, and then take its blood and go. It will frequently bounce around and so bite you several times to get the full blood meal. So that can have ramifications. It means you're getting more than one bite. It also means that if you're sitting close together, that same mosquito may take partial blood meals from you or I. Now, the fact that Michael's not moving and there's no disturbance means that they can probably just get a full meal right away.
So tell us what that's like.
Well, it's starting to smart a little bit, starting to sting
Is
a
that
little.
what he calls it, smart? Doctor, is that what he means?
No,
Smart?
he's
Is that-
being, no, Michael's being.
Is that in
It
the
doesn't,
dictionary?
it doesn't really hurt that bad. I mean, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, maybe, but really, it's just really tiny,
Folks, there
tiny
are
needles.
literally-
That looks bad,
Literally
Michael.
hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
That looks bad.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't really feel much, to tell you the truth.
That is the real
But
deal.
honestly, the reason why I do it is because, and I kind of meant it as a joke before, but this does have a scientific value. These mosquitoes now will be able to breed them, and they're going to lay eggs presumably. So now
because you're feeding them.
right.
Well, but what would they feed on if you didn't do that?
This species here only feeds on human beings. It's only going to take blood from humans. Very rarely, there are now new reports of them feeding on dogs, which is unusual. This species here feeds mainly on birds, or people, or dogs, or cats. This is highly specific to humans.
That is amazing.
This one will feed on anything.
Right.
The fact that it feeds on birds means it picks up West Nile virus.
I'm going to get a nice picture of this.
And just to clarify, they're not taking my blood to feed themselves. What they're doing is they're extracting the blood so they can grab the protein, and that will nourish their eggs. So this will allow the life cycle to continue. And so for our purposes, it'll give us the means to be able to continue to test for pesticide resistance, and to be able to see if what we're doing really is working.
Absolutely.
And
It's important.
you grew these guys, right?
These were reared in the laboratory. Yeah. So Michael fed these earlier on today.
With his other hand.
With his other hand. And
Yeah.
this one, in my experience, is much more of a nip. It's much more, you feel this one. At least I do.
You can see the red welts there from the earlier feeding from the different species.
I'm going to stick my head in there for a second.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
All right. So
And the sister species to this, the Asian tiger mosquito, also has a really bad nip. At least I notice it. These you don't notice so much. This one certainly. So the different species have different types of effects when they bite you.
So some of the mosquitoes, they jump around on your hand and they do multiple locations.
This one here, typically, if you're sitting, because you move, and you won't see it. It's around the back of here. It's down here. You might. They're very, very hard to slap. This one here, and so it will bite as many times as it needs to. It will flit around until it gets a full blood meal. There are other mosquitoes like the salt marsh out the Everglades. It doesn't do that. Homes in one time and sucks his blood and
So
gone.
for you guys that have been doing this for a while, if you had 10 different types of mosquitoes, could you tell what type they were based upon their biting
That's
habits?
difficult. You could tell by their behavior as they're flying around you. Yeah, there's at least some of them anyway. Yes.
I think I'm ready to come
Okay. So what Michael's doing now, extracting his arm and getting them off without any escapees.
Oh wait, we got a couple of escapees.
So, those are dead.
Yeah, smashed them. That one's coming for you, Howard. Careful. Oh, you got
Well-
my shirt.
Well done, Michael. That's a lot of mosquitoes, and that's an aggressive type. That's
amazing.
So, kudos kudos to
You want to
Michael.
go wash your hands?
Well, I don't want to interrupt the webcast.
All right.
I think I'll be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to get up.
And
All right.
scream. I'm holding in a scream. Maybe I'll have to go off camera for that.
People would often use rubbing alcohol to get the bites to come down, stop them stinging so much. Whenever I've done that, my experience is, I mean, that's because it's usually sometimes your whole hour.
Howard, the aftershock.
Flush it in hot water. Hot water is as hot as you can stand, and it takes out the sting. But Michael's right. We will use these. These will produce eggs within a few days from this blood. These will lay their eggs directly onto water. These, as I said, these lay their eggs we can get on paper, so we can.
You showed me a couple of weeks ago on paper. That was from them, and it goes on paper, and then when it gets wet, they hatch.
Yes.
From the time it gets wet until they flutter away, how long is that?
About a week.
And they can. How does that work? Is that like dehydrated eggs, and you just add water and you?
These they're highly specialized. You need a super powerful microscope. It's called an electron microscope to look at these eggs, and the shell, if you like, of the egg is highly contoured, highly sculpted. It's very complicated. Whereas eggs of this one, nothing at all. It's just a case, and the larva comes out. So these are complex. So the embryo goes into some sort of hibernation, if you like. All it needs to do is breathe within the eggshell. And it can sit there for weeks and months, waiting for you to water your yard or waiting for the rain.
Michael, that was pretty neat.
That was indeed. That was a good one. That was a good one.
It's my pleasure. Really, it really is public service. It really is about being a county employee and doing something for the greater good.
National Mosquito Control Awareness.
Yes.
So, by the way, that's one of the things that I've seen with county staff. I probably talked to 25 in the last 6 months. The devotion and this level of commitment and of awareness of how they can change the world. All right, I see that repeatedly with county staff.
I think it's very interesting that you say that because I definitely find that. I mean, I've been here almost 4 years now, and I know we get criticized. People like to criticize civil servants, county employees, government employees. But you're absolutely correct. The level of dedication to the job or the task and what the whole function is, it's commendable. It really is. It's over and above, what they're employed to do. But
yeah, it's an important part of my job as a communicator, as a public information officer, is to illustrate and really make an example of how we do things at Mosquito Control. And there is no better week than National Mosquito Control Awareness Week to demonstrate that. This is what we do. And blood feeding is absolutely essential to facilitate the research and the work that we do at the county. So
are these type of things available, or will they be available this upcoming school year, where you could go out to some of the schools and say, hey kids?
We're doing it now for summer camps.
Right.
My colleague Monique Spence, who you may have spoken to before,
Monique's been on here.
she was on here a few weeks ago. She is the specialist. She's way better with kids than I am, but she's talking
better
to summer
at mosquitoes, that's
camps.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm better at feeding mosquitoes.
Yeah,
She's
that's
better
it.
at talking to kids. But she's out and about now. She's doing virtual and in-person outreach events for summer camps. But yes, pretty much when the school bell rings, we are always looking for opportunities. So.
Yeah, I like going to the schools. They don't get to do it enough because job's busy and there's lots to do and so on. But getting out to any of these events with Michael and Monique and to the schools, especially the elementary schools, that's good. You can see the you can see the impact and the questions that you get, and some of the questions that you get are absolutely spot on.
So somebody asked me the other day about mosquitoes, or maybe I brought it up, and I said they know before they get the phone calls where the mosquitoes are, because you have 340 traps,
318,
318 traps around town. They can tell you, where there's going to be an outbreak. Really, I go yes. And how many people monitor, if that's the word, those traps? And how often do you go to those traps?
We set the traps once a week, so they're set out once a week, 318 all over the county, and the trap collects for 24 hours each week. So it samples the population for 24 hours, a sampling period once a week.
And based on history, you're going to know if there's 20 over there, that you know what that means, and if there's 100 over yonder.
Yes. So, like I said, when the biologists and the lab techs do their speciation, sort these into species and count them and put this all in the data sheet, we can then see that everybody else can see where the numbers are going up, which species are going up, which are going down. But we kind of know, we'll have a good idea in advance because of the rainfall. Or for example, our inspectors last week Thursday, one of our inspectors found first stage larvae. That's the really, really tiny ones. So they've just hatched from the egg, in other words, on the fringes of some mangrove swamp in the southern part of the county. So if they were first stage on Thursday, we know they're going to emerge probably Thursday, Friday. So we know when they're going to come out.
So Michael, are there different types of mosquitoes in the same area?
Yes.
So in a trap, there could be several types.
There could be several different species. Yes, that's pretty commonplace.
Yes.
Which is one of the things that makes that job so important, is we have highly specialized and well-trained personnel that not only are we counting, we're getting an idea of the number of mosquitoes, but they also spend quite a bit of time sorting the mosquitoes. They identify them and they sort them so that we have an accurate count of each species from each trap at any given moment.
So Doctor, why would a homeowner in Kendall care in the 4 traps that are in their area, whatever number it is out there? Why would they care what's there?
You mean what's in the traps?
Yes. Yes.
Well, one thing we're monitoring, these 2 right here, because they're our most important disease vectors. I don't like to use jargon. Vector just means possible transmitter. So this can transmit West Nile virus. We had 60 cases last year in the county.
Horses?
Yes, it's a disease of birds, and humans and horses are just accidental hosts, if you like. They use the term dead-end hosts, which is not really a good term. But so this species here is responsible for transmitting dengue and Zika and chikungunya and yellow fever, for that matter. So these 2 are critically important from that point of view. There are other mosquitoes. Many other mosquitoes that come in the traps, which the lab techs and biologists have to sort out, which are not disease vectors, but they can be a real nuisance.
So when we started seeing Zika virus, is that what it is?
Yes.
Zika virus 5 years ago, whenever it was. And I know we've discussed this before. It's over on the beach and in Windward. All right. Why do we care if we're in South Miami? Why do we care that's going on over there?
So we want to know, from these traps, we want to know which species are in which area and in what numbers. And let's say one area you're talking about there, if we notice that the numbers of this species are going up, and we've got a few high counts, a few high traps, then we'll take action. If you're a resident living there, you don't need to know this, but we want to keep the numbers of this one down as much as possible, just in case there's any disease introduced.
And what would you do? Let's say you do your count. You say, "Oh my goodness, it's up 30% from the last time we checked or last year." What do you do?
Well, typically what we do is send a spray truck, or send an inspector, or both. Have an inspector look around the place for the breeding, see what's going on. So we will go to that location and do whatever operations we deem necessary. Sometimes trap counts are tricky though, Michael. Last week before last, trap counts went down. All the trap counts went down because it was pouring rain. And people might think, oh, it's raining, therefore the mosquitoes are going to be out. When it's heavy rain, the mosquitoes weren't out, so the trap counts go down. Doesn't mean they're not there, they just went out flying. Trap counts are a snapshot, a sample of the population. So it is important for, perhaps not for residents, but for us to know which mosquitoes are occurring in which area and which are going up and down.
So, Michael, what are some really important things that you've learned about mosquitoes here in Miami-Dade County?
Well, I think the most important thing that you have to do is you have to be aware that they're out there, and you have to do your part to control their numbers. And one of the things that I've learned from Dr. Petrie is that one of the easiest ways and one of the most effective ways is to limit their source control. If you have standing water in your yard, you're going to attract mosquitoes and they're going to breed. So you have to be very aware and very vigilant and eliminate the standing water. So that's part of
that's for this
that's
one.
the biggest That's one of the biggest pieces there is the awareness of them.
So dog bowls outside,
Fountains, bird
right.
baths, clogged drain gutters, tree holes, any number, a tarp that you have in your yard. And this is, this has happened in my yard where there's been a tarp over some lights that weren't in use, but the tarp itself kind of warps and moves around and it catches water. And you wouldn't even think that would happen, tarps, but that's enough water to carry on.
So is it possible that, let's say there's 3 houses in a row, the house in the middle could be essentially mosquito free because they're doing something on the property, and the other 2 could still have them, but not infiltrate too much? How does that work?
Yes, that's definitely possible. It so happens that this species, again, our most important disease challenge, it does not travel far. It's infamous, notorious for the fact that it does not travel far. So it probably doesn't leave your yard. It doesn't need to if you're providing blood and you've got the breeding facility
sort of like
there.
that cat that doesn't go away.
Yeah, but it's not to say
them,
to say it couldn't go next door, or they're not going to travel very far.
No, they're not very robust flyers.
So that kind of helps that control efforts. With this species, if you found the source, that it's not going very far. The ones coming out the Everglades, they can fly 30 miles.
Let's talk about animals, because a lot of people have cats inside, outside, and dogs. Is there something we should do during mosquito season for the dogs when we have them come back into the house, like spray them down or what?
No, I don't think there's any point in spraying pets in that way. A lot of mosquitoes are not able to feed on cats and dogs. The fur is just too thick. These are very persistent and can get through birds' feathers. And these are quite persistent. I've seen them feeding or attempting to feed on dogs, but not actually making it. The papers I've read about these feeding on dogs, I'm assuming they were short-haired dogs.
And I know that they're not mosquitoes, but sometimes once a year or twice a year, these blackbirds come down there and you see them, it looks like they're chasing food. What are they chasing? Not mosquitoes.
Oh,
or are they?
What kind of birds?
I don't know. The
blackbirds, crows, grackles.
They're catching all kinds of insects. I mean, the swallows are here at the moment. They'll take mosquitoes.
And how high up typically do mosquitoes go?
Typically not very high at all. Although again, the Everglades mosquito, the salt marsh one, has been detected above the tree line. Flying. These, no, typically you're talking about ground level too. Again, though, here's another thing that we have discovered just recently about this species. It's never been recorded breeding on construction sites before, but we have found it doing so here in Miami-Dade. So the behavior may be changing slightly. That's slightly disturbing. So we did actually find the species. I think it was like 12 stories, up. Where it shouldn't have been. But probably what's happening is the water, and construction sites always have water, Michael. There's probably some water lying around, yes. and it managed to find its way up there.
All right, we have 3 minutes left. So let's talk about what people can do and then when they go. I think there's a lot of mosquitoes going on right now at their homes. What are some things they should do themselves, and then also with the county? Yeah,
we definitely advise people to drain and cover. And what we mean by that is we're talking about draining any standing water that you have around your home. And when you go out, when you're getting ready to go out, cover your skin either with a repellent that has DEET or picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, or IR 3535 as the active ingredients. Use that, stick to those. Or you cover your skin. I know it's not the right time of the year because it's so hot, but you cover your skin with clothing. And another good idea is to, if you have a porch, if you have windows, you have, a doorway that you particularly, and again, for this time of year, it's maybe not the best advice because people have their windows closed or doors closed. They have their ACs running, but use screens, screen in your porch, screen in your patios, keep the mosquitoes away from you, keep them out. So those really the two most important pieces of advice. And also for this week, what they can do is we have a number of events online that people can tune in and participate in. For example, tomorrow we have a Zoom tour of mosquito control. If you want to take a look at what we do and how we do it and get a closer look at our headquarters, we invite you to tune in to Zoom. You can go to our Facebook page or our Twitter page or our Instagram page at 305 Mosquito and learn more about that. You'll find the Zoom link on those social channels. That would be tomorrow, Tuesday, 12 noon, the Zoom tour. We're having a Facebook Q&A, Facebook Live. We're doing our own Facebook Live with Dr. Petrie on Wednesday. So it's a chance to hear a little bit more in depth about what we do. And I'll be monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions, you could feel free to post them, and we'll get to them. Thursday, we have a Twitter chat. You can join in, ask questions, follow along with our Q&A. And Friday, we'll be live on Instagram, again, at 12 noon. These are all 12 noon start times. We have some colleagues over in the greater LA County Mosquito Control District out there, really good people. They do really good work. They have similar weather patterns, and they do have this invasive species, Aedes aegypti. So I'll be talking to my counterpart over there, Mary Joy Coburn. Hello, Mary Joy, if you're watching. We'll have a little chat about what she does, what I do, and what both residents from LA County and from Miami-Dade County, what we can all do to fight off mosquitoes.
Well, this has been very intriguing. And one of the things I've realized is that as we're talking over these last couple of months, I'm just a curious boy that wants to know all this stuff. And I think there are a lot of people out there that want to ask those questions. I hope they tune in. Again, it's 305 Mosquito.
At 305 Mosquito on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
One of the things about repellent that if people don't like to wear it on the skin, you can spray repellent onto your clothes or onto a hat, for example. That actually
Very
works.
good advice.
Well, I'm going to go down and visit some friends over the weekend. It's on the levee at 260th Street,
Oh.
Southwest. So I will report back to you to see how they're actually in the what do they call it in the it's not the canal, whatever. She lives right on the levee,
The
right
drainage?
on the levee.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
So it should be fun as I walk down there, and I'll be thinking of you guys. Again, thanks for joining us, Dr. William Petrie and Michael Boot.
Thank you,
From the Mosquito
Thanks for
Control
having us.
Department of Miami-Dade
very
County.
much.
My compliments to all the staff for doing a great job. Again, this is Live with Miami's Community News. Howard, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you,
have
Howard.
a great day.
Thanks, Howard. And well done, Michael.
My pleasure.